GM, everyone, and welcome to our third town square of the future of gaming. I made a mistake. I messed up the timing. Apologies for that. So if you plan to come at some other time and miss this, that's my bad. But we're recording this, obviously, if you're listening to this. So I hope you can enjoy, and feel free to type your bold predictions that we didn't talk about here in the town square discussion. All right, so yeah, very curious to hear your spicy takes for the next year. Laszlo, we can hear you eat, man. Come on.
Sorry.
No worries. Maybe I see a few new names, like until we might stop this at some point, but I want to have Konstantinos share a bit more about himself. I think Ethereum, it might be like we haven't heard you either, so I'd love to learn more about you as well. So Konstantinos, you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah. I hope you mean new in the town square and not in the Discord server.
Of course, OG. Look at this color.
So I've been in the Web3 gaming space for a bit more than a year now. Started in the community side as a community lead and for a Web3 game, of course. And I've been writing, I've been researching, and most recently I've been organizing the Game 7 playtesting team over at Game 7 DAO. So if you are in the Web3 gaming space, if you are building a Web3 game and I have not heard of it, it would be a surprise to me.
That's true. You have an almost encyclopedic knowledge about all the games. And I guess you've played almost all of them if they're playable?
I mean, if they are playable and accessible, yeah. Like most recently started playing even the closed ones. So been seeing some nice things.
Are you keeping track in like a sheet or something when it comes to like, maybe you should make a rating system? I don't know how you do that, but it'd be good for you, like for us or for you to be able to share like, okay, I've played these 50 games and in terms of gameplay, in terms of graphical fidelity, you give them scores out of 5 or 10 or something.
Oh, graphic fidelity. That's a nice combo. Yeah, I do keep a sheet. I keep track of all the games that I'm playing. To some of them, I also provide feedback and write threads on them. So I also put the links in there. I will share it like at some point in the next few weeks.
Fantastic. Good. Well, great to have you here and great to have you as part of the DAO, man. I've been enjoying jamming with you on all of this stuff. All right. Ethereum, if that's how I pronounce it.
Yes. Hi. It's 11 p.m. here. So I'm a volunteer moderator at FOGDAO. I'm also a scout at FOGDAO. And in real life, I senior technical product manager for a centralized exchange. But I already left the company and now I find for a new gig. Yeah, that's it.
Good to have you here, man, and thanks for joining us so late. I'm guessing you're happy that the timing worked out the way it did, so it's not 1 a.m. for you?
Yes, I think 11 p.m. is kind of so-so, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, good. LVB, you joined as well. Do you want to, everyone's doing intros. I think you haven't been on these calls yet. You want to share a bit more about you?
Hi, yeah, it's first time that I'm here. I had to miss all the other town squares actually because timing wasn't perfect for me. Well, good afternoon. I'm also from Belgium. The reason why I'm in this DAO is also a bit to learn more from the gaming in the blockchain and everything. My experience in gaming go way back from my PlayStation 1 and my Game Boy till now, blockchain gaming. I actually love it and excited what's going to happen in the next couple of years and about everything. So that's a bit like my little intro.
Thanks, man. Good to have you here.
Thanks.
And then I think finally, Swagger Stallion, have you done an intro yet?
I can't remember. I may have. I can keep it short in case I have already. But yeah, I guess got into the NFT space back in like July 2021. Been gamer for my entire life. But then founded the Ascended project with the artist, and we've been working to build an MMORPG that's focused on all the digital ownership, all the good kind of fundamentals of Web3 gaming. So just been trying to learn a lot from you guys.
Fantastic. Good. Great to have all of you here. Probably some others will join because of the timing mess up. So let's dive into some bold predictions. If you've been listening to my content, I do enjoy myself a spicy take. And so I think, Tim, you already typed some in here. I think here. Can you unmute and talk us through what you think will happen in 2023?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so first prediction here. Bitcoin to 13,500. I think Bitcoin is going to see a continuous slide. We're going to see companies, and you posted this in one of the other channels. Core Scientific has already filed for Chapter 11, right? And these are companies that bought tons of mining equipment on loans, right? They leveraged themselves extremely on the idea that hash rate was going to continue to go up. And what we're seeing right now is, a normal cyclical crypto winter. And it's what we have is an industry full of more leverage than usual miners, right? So I think that's going to drive the price down. I think we're going to see some serious drops in the 13 to 14,000 range, right? That's my first one.
Honestly, it's not that serious, actually, right? We're at like 16K today. So I think if that's the bottom, I think a lot of people will be happy.
Agree with you. I would be happy, especially, reallocating some of my IRA into it.
There you go. Good. You want to continue with the rest here?
Yeah, sure. Hey, sorry about that. I think the one that we're going to be really surprised by is that even in this kind of crypto winter, we're going to see, the next big things in non-fungible tokens, where we're trying totally different things, and we're going to see, today most collections are based on fixed size, pre-minted 10,000 kind of styles, where you take 10 different attributes and you stack them on top of each other, like 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 different things, and you end up with 10,000 variations. I think we're going to see less of that. I think we're going to see more game-oriented things. We're going to see things that use more AI and procedural generation and still do provable things on the blockchain. So I think we will see towards the latter end of 2023 kind of like an explosion upwards, right? I think that'll be a big thing to be looking forward to, especially, right, as these games that we're talking about, these things that are either on-chain or off-chain Web3 games, start using NFTs in more interesting and non-skeuomorphic ways.
Anyone has any thoughts about this? I have a lot, but I want to get your thoughts first. Okay.
Yeah.
The floor.
I think maybe what are you guys thinking about the soulbound tokens for like 2023, or you think it will be a bit later, like for
Yeah, I'm glad you brought
gaming?
it up. I'm glad you brought it up because I've been talking to people about this.
Yeah.
I just want to say straight up that gamification, right, was a big thing for a while, where corporations were trying to incentivize their user bases using badges, right? And several NFTs were built by, say, Microsoft, in fact, to do badges for completing educational portions of their cloud software and so on and so forth. And so for there to be a standard now for more soul-bound tokens, I think there's going to be a big market for that. There's a lot of huge questions about it, though. Like if someone sends you a soul-bound token that is completely despicable, right? If they go ahead and generate something that can, be completely controversial, there's some concerns there. And as we all know, many of the ways that we see NFTs are through centralized markets and through services that are provided to us that are not purely on the blockchain. So now we have another censorship layer, and now we have deep questions about how decentralized these things can be.
So I'd like to touch up on that last point because I have a lot of thoughts here, and I think this is a fascinating discussion. When it comes to the risk of people sending you stuff you don't want, so I would say that whether that's soulbound or not, like if someone sends me a dick pic as an NFT, like I'm not gonna spend gas to burn that stuff, right? I think we just like you can't avoid people sending you bad stuff through the traditional mail or through email. We will not be able to avoid people sending us things on the blockchain without us wanting it. And so I think what we'll use for that is spam filters. And these will be, I guess, the way I think about those is potentially decentralized, but potentially also centralized, but very much opt-in services that you can just use to look at your wallet, where you can look at your wallet, you see the maybe the blue chip NFTs, and if there's any, like some NFTs that are potentially harmful, they get flagged and they get hidden from you, and then you can, if you want to, look at them and then unmark them and stuff like that. And so I think that's how I see that progress when it comes to censorship. Any thoughts, Tim?
Yeah, I got several, and you know that in an upcoming article, I'm really thinking about how those kind of decentralized services could provide NFT information and so on and so forth. It's kind of it's almost like there needs to be a difference between burning an NFT and then, or if you wanted to on chain somehow identify it as, like you said, even if you have to spend gas to do it, that hey, this is a bad NFT, this is a bad soulbound token. I would like to put it in a registry of like material that should be a spam list, right? It's essentially a spam list, and that not only can, you could have two layers. You could have one that's just NFT specific. You could have collection specific. You could even have creator specific, like, hey, this wallet is known to send bad things. Let's all ignore it. So there's almost an opportunity, an economic opportunity to create a spam DAO, right? It's kind of interesting.
Could you elaborate on spam DAO? You've
you
piqued
could,
my interest.
Right. You could almost imagine that a group like ours, where we all have a vested interest in making sure that NFTs are as legitimate as possible, right? Get together and found a decentralized autonomous organization with a smart contract and maybe offline services too that can quickly identify, like I said, the three levels, right? Individual assets, collections, or creators who are spamming the network and put them on a watch list. A lot like how we have Spam House for email, right? Maybe we need a decentralized or a hybrid centralized decentralized system for that. And we could absolutely make it a community standard. Right? I'm only considering this right now, but it does seem like something eminently doable, and I wouldn't call it easy, but this is something that should probably exist.
Mm-hmm.
I think something we should have, like that we accept airdrops. I mean, now we're just getting the airdrops in our wallet, and before they getting to be airdropped, that we like maybe put some acceptance on it, like write some code in it, that we're not able to automatically go into the wallet, but just beforehand that we think that maybe would be solve some things on that case.
Yeah, and that's easy to do on layer 2. Right? We can literally just go to Polygon and Immutable and say, hey, by the way, this is a good idea. On Ethereum or layer 1s, we don't have a choice. The wallet provider now has a choice. But again, now you're stepping down the road of, and this is the concern, right? We're centralizing our view of a decentralized system, right? This is the big argument, right? Where like critics of blockchain technology say, hey, that's cool that you think you want decentralization, but what you really just want centralized convenience, right? That's what they're really saying. And how do we step away from that? How do we prove that we can do it in a decentralized way? And that's a fascinating problem. That really is. It's not one that you can just solve in like 2 seconds.
No, that's true, but it's something that we really need to evolve into, I think, for like main, how you call it, like main adoption to be precise.
Yeah, like I would never use a product where I can't control any kind of privacy, who can reach out to me, who can send me stuff. And maybe the future is that there is that baseline that is decentralized, and if you want to have a completely unfiltered approach to I don't know, your digital assets, your communications, then you can choose to use the purely decentralized product. But if a product were offering me some kind of, I don't know, a window that I could control, I choose not to read everything in the fully decentralized form. I would definitely use that because, the world is a bit scary, and pure access without any kind of filtering in terms of, I don't know, racism, harassment, all of these bad things that definitely exist in the world.
Yep.
That's not good.
Maria, I'm with you 100% on this.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, MetaMask would be great for there to be, and right now, when it looks at NFTs, it just makes an API call over to OpenSea or one of the other providers, right? Now imagine if there was an opt-in checkbox where you could say, actually, I want to see everything, not just what the markets say. And that's provided by more of a decentralized service. Fantastic. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds, but you also have the ability to filter out terrible, terrible things, right?
I think this is a really interesting discussion, and I think it probably doesn't fit in predictions for 2023 because I feel like it's going to take some more time for this to work out. But I am absolutely convinced that we will move away from the way wallets work today and the way accounts work today, where everyone has one wallet, and that's where you hold all of your tokens and all of your NFTs. And the moment you prove to someone that you own a certain asset, which could be a fungible token or an NFT, anyone immediately knows all of your assets. And if you send, some crypto from one wallet to another, people can make a link, and everything is ultra transparent. I think we're moving towards a world where you have you're using ZK technology, so zero knowledge technology and account abstraction. And I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly how this will work, but using these two, we will have ways where I will own NFTs. I can, for example, prove that I own this punk, but you don't know what other NFTs I have. I can prove that I own one CryptoPunk, but you don't know which one. And so all of these, I can prove something without you getting all of the information. I think we'll use that to solve a lot of the problems which we have today. And I think using that and, for example, account abstraction, we can have what LVB was mentioning before, which is, if you want to receive or if you want to link your wallet, you can maybe have like a public mailbox that people can send stuff to, and then you can, opt into getting whatever is in there, something like that. Again, I don't know exactly what that will look like, but with the advancements in blockchain technology, I believe we can get there.
My prediction is in the chat.
Or is it? Is this just a separate prediction, or is this related to what we're talking about?
Separate.
You want to repeat it?
I can't right now.
Okay.
It's in a different chat, Nico.
Okay.
It's in the actual town square.
It's in
You
the
know
general
how
or
to
what?
get there. But yeah,
Or hot
if you go
takes?
to the town square, chat, there's like a message thing next.
This
You
one.
hover your mouse on the town square. Lower. The next one. Yeah, you see the message. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll let you guys read that. I'll read it as well. But maybe someone else wants to do a bold prediction? Konstantinos, with all of your insights in all of the games that people are playing today.
Let's make one quick one. I think Bitcoin will hit 120,000 by 2025. There you go.
Okay.
I'm thinking about 150.
Who does more? Come on. Let's go, guys. Give me hope. No one? Best we can do.
180.
180. Boom.
I was just doing it I was just looking at the inflation curve. That's the only thing
Yeah. Guys, okay, so just to refocus this discussion, look at it. You see this? You guys see my screen? Look at this. Next year, all right?
Okay, for 2023, I predict Ethereum to be $3,000 again.
Okay. I'm going to make a suggestion. Let's try and move away from price predictions. because
crap.
it's fine, but it's like we could talk about that for days, right? But let's talk about games. I think that's what a lot of us are fascinated by, interested in, and I would love to have your takes.
Do I have
I
to
can-
believe in the hot take, or
I
can
guess,
it be
well,
like a hot take for a hot take's sake?
If it sparks an interesting conversation, I'll be happy to allow it.
Okay, then we are not going to see a Web3 game in 2023 that is going to reach, let's say, 500,000 players.
So
I believe the threshold is quite low, so that's why I said it to 500,000. I didn't say 10 million, I didn't say 100 million. I think it's quite low, 500,000, if it's truly a successful game. So basically, we're not gonna have not a successful game, but a game that reaches that number in 2023.
So because Axie actually, I think, quintupled this. They did 2.5 million players last year in 2021.
Yeah, but did they do players? Did they do wallets?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's fair. I would say that I think I'm pretty sure. I'm actually very sure that they had more than 500K players last year, and maybe even this year at the launch of their new Axie Origin game. And so I would say this is probably a bearish one, right? You're just saying you don't think that that blockchain games will have much success over the next year. I guess your assumption there is that one, the quality will be strictly lower than Web2 games, and because we're in a bear market, it will not be additionally fueled by speculation, and so it's going to be a bad year. That's what you're saying, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Any thoughts? Any takers? Any naysayers? Anyone?
Sure, I'll
extremely
disagree.
bullish?
Yeah, I'll disagree. I'm going to be bullish. I'm going to say that we're going to see a move towards, and I'm going to say this outright, the games that we've seen so far on Web3 that have been successful have been very paltry game development efforts in general. I don't mean that to be insulting. I just mean that as more game developers with many years of experience, and you'll see this in the hiring, right? We're seeing very important people being hired out of the traditional industry into this. They're going to take all those lessons from free to play, and they're going to push the envelope of Web3 a lot more. I think we'll easily see casual games, hyper casual games, even the hybrid casual games start reaching 2-3 million players. And that's going to be considered a good success and not even the great success of 2023.
Okay. And those games.
I'll counter.
Yes. Let's go, Maria.
I'll counter that prediction. Well, what Tim said, because I think it's an extremely difficult environment to release a successful casual and hyper casual game. For example, with UA costs, with finding something that hits the market, and I don't think blockchain in 2023 will be enough of a leg up to gain an advantage in that market space.
Any other thoughts? Ezra, I saw you unmute yourself. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Tim. I was also I think there's more sophistication in terms of just the overall go-to-market. A lot of the teams that we're seeing building right now are just much more sophisticated and have budget to spend on proper user acquisition. So, I mean, whether it's successful, I guess, remains to be seen, but I'm not so sure that that there aren't games that can't hit 500K. I guess the 500K number probably needs some nuance. Is that just 500,000 all time at any time? Is that 500,000 monthly active? What's the 500,000?
There is a cut. I didn't say they can't or that they do not have the quality to reach 500K, but they won't. For example, there are a lot of games that have gone unnoticed year 1, year 2, or during their soft launches, and then they explode. So I kind of think that's how we are gonna go through 2023. There is gonna be games that can't be played from this amount of players. They have the quality, they have the nuance, but there won't be any.
I'm just gonna take a second. I just think about a path real quick. So, right when I watched free to play rise, right, early in the days with Zynga, and how they were successful at user acquisition. One of the most important parts, right, was the ease with which they made social sharing the content that these people were developing simple. And what I mean by that is when you played Farmville, you could not only just say, hey, I did these cool things, but your entire social network, including your mother and your grandmother, could see your garden, right? And the things that you had just grown and achieved and what you were doing. And what do layer two things like Immutable do now? They give us beautiful, really easy to use galleries for our NFTs that, like, okay, it took me like a couple hours with my team to like integrate Immutable into like a Wordle clone test that we were doing just to see if we could generate NFTs, finish the game, and then socially share them. I mean, we're going to have more accessibility moving forward. It's kind of like we're being handed more tools. I expect better results.
I think that's fair. Maybe we should do like a poll that we save, and then we can, at the end of next year, look back and laugh at how stupid we were and how wrong we were. I'll set that up.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes. Go ahead.
To me, the crucial word here was Web3 in the prediction. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I know you guys often interview founders of Web 2.5 gaming studios. To me, it seems almost unavoidable that some kind of game launched by an experienced group of founders will hit a decent measure of success and also have some kind of blockchain and NFT integration slapped on top of it. So my question is, would that count or would it not count?
Yes, I think that's a really important question, right? Because here we mentioned Web3. Some of you mentioned hyper-casual games. For hyper-casual games, getting to 500k players, I guess it's not that it's easy, but if you're lucky, you can get there. And so I guess here it's important to specify, right? My prediction, by the way, and this is not for 2023, I'm breaking my own rule here, but in, let's say 2028, maybe let's say 2030, put myself on the same side. I think 95+% of games will use Web3 technology in some shape, way, or form. And for a lot of those, that will just be as payment rails, not more than that. But they will use it. And then the question is that then a Web3 game? I guess not, right? And so in terms of definition, I guess, Konstantinos, what you meant, and feel free to correct me, is that the game uses either NFTs or fungible tokens and everything beyond that. So it's like Web 2.5, which is, I would say, a centralized game with just NFTs and everything that's more Web3 than that. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I actually think part of that, like one of the things that you'll see more of, I don't know if it'll be next year because it just depends on when games come to market, but like games that have the intent to be Web3, but that don't launch as Web3, if that makes sense. Like I think you'll see games that launch and then integrate those types of features and the technology probably like kind of after a soft launch almost.
Yeah, I guess if you look at, I could see a world where at some point Counter-Strike, for example, decides to make all of the weapon skins into NFTs, and at that point, we're beyond this, right?
Yeah, but I guess I mean even like these Web 2.5 and Web 3 studios.
Mm-hmm.
I think like not even just legacy players, but I think people with like a clear intent to build that type of product still want to put a game in market before they go too far too fast.
Yes.
With like what the Web3 portion of the game looks like. And so I think you basically see Web3 games come to market that are not yet actually Web3 games.
Yes. It's interesting, right? Because I agree with you, and I think that will be a viable way to do things for a lot of companies, for a lot of studios. One of the things that I'm looking for as an investor is companies where the game doesn't work without the blockchain. And so I haven't seen too many of these games, right? Because I think most people are, or most teams are thinking about games that they know and understand. And so that wouldn't work in that case. But I fully agree with your point, and I think that 95% of the blockchain games in the next 5 years will likely be games that could exist without any Web3 technology.
I think that the esports team will play a big part in that, because they are starting in Web3 with a lot of esports teams right now.
Mhm.
And if they start to create skins for their own community, for their fans, that the gaming world will have to adopt them eventually. And indeed, like a game like Counter-Strike and Steam will probably need to integrate them into their store, or they'll miss out on a lot of even money and people to play the games. So
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Over the past year, I believe, I've seen a few teams experiment with NFTs. 3 that come to mind is FaceClan. I think they have like more than 500,000 NFTs that people own now. I think
Fnatic now started with one. You could register for to get an airdrop or something.
Yeah. And then G2 also.
Yeah.
That's the ones that I know.
Yeah, I think SK Gaming started basic, but I'm not 100% sure about it. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, that being said, I'm sorry, I interrupted someone.
Oh, that was fine, Nico. I was just going to say I agree with you that in the future, hopefully we actually do see games that are truly reliant on the blockchain technology, but we're going to see for the moment, we're going to see a lot of games that include Web3 as hopefully a little more than an afterthought. But I think where we're going to see interesting things in 2023 is the people who kind of treat it like a hybrid. Like, hey, here's the game experience, and now here's an add-on with Web3 that allows you to experience it. In other words, rewards are things that do unlocks. That's kind of like the easy, low-hanging fruit path for game developers. It's the one they understand, right? Because it's very free to play. I think you're going to see games that say, hey, thank you for playing today. And by the way, since you've earned this cool NFT, why don't you go ahead and redeem it on a layer 2, and that'll give you access to this cool experience over here. So once you have that kind of flow going, it'll become easier and easier for game developers to prove they can move towards Web3.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense.
I have a prediction. Is it a good time, or do we want to discuss this one further?
It is a fantastic time. Go ahead, Maria.
Well, since you broke the rules and you gave a longer term prediction, I'm going to piggyback on that.
Okay.
Okay, so I think the acceleration of the chip technology, now that Intel seems to have found a way to produce powerful chips again, since Moore's law was basically dying, I think we'll see a very interesting flywheel with games that require large computing power that makes it very difficult to develop and then to run, and also an interesting flywheel with the development of VR hardware. I think, I don't know, I think people who start developing games that are in VR, even if VR isn't, a mature product nowadays, nor a mature market, I think that will give those professionals and teams an advantage in a few years down the line, because the way to develop fully immersive games, having to go from building a screen-based game to a fully immersive game, is very different. And so who starts gaining that knowledge now will be well positioned in 3-4 years to capitalize on that more developed market. What does everyone think?
This is where the bagel comes in.
From my side, I think you're absolutely right. I think the acceleration of hardware is going to unlock a lot of things, especially not just for developers, for the players, right? I mean, I would like a lighter headset. I would like Retina display. I would like to be able to read text and code in a VR environment. That would be amazing to me. We're not there yet.
I guess what you're saying, Maria, is that with the advancements when it comes to CPU technology, probably GPU technology in general, because the time for VR is now. That's been said for like the past 10 years, it feels like. And so, but you're saying it is now. Like this time is different. And
I don't think it's now.
Yeah.
I think it will be in about 3 years' time.
Yeah.
Not only for VR, but also for AI. That requires a massive computing power to train models.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very expensive to get into it. Like even if a studio nowadays wanted to train their own AI models based on large data sets, that requires quite a lot of costs due to the computing requirements. And so these chips will also allow people with a lower cost to just explore AI.
Yeah. Interesting. Commoditization of compute results in both AI and VR, AR technologies to be on the horizon at scale, and getting started with those now will provide now is essentially a sweet spot to get started, because when your game is out, the technology will be at a point that it's, mass consumable and affordable, and you'll be in a great position at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a bit.
Go ahead, Konstantinos.
Go ahead.
Okay. Did we all see the new headset? Which was it's not in production, but it was just a little bigger than just normal glasses. Did we all see that?
I think mobile phones will also need to adjust to those things. Actually, they need to evolve massively to bring that sort of gaming to the masses.
I'm just
100%.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
not everybody will be able to buy a big GPU, a big computer with hot top screen and everything. I think the mobile gaming will be the go-to place for the starters, actually.
Hey, Raph Coster
Bit
always says,
like
it doesn't
bit
involve
like the Game
smartphone,
Boy
it's not the metaverse.
Can you repeat that, Tim?
I'm saying it's a funny thing Raph Coster once told me is if it doesn't involve a smartphone somehow, it's probably not a metaverse application.
Yeah, that's a good take. Good, but we keep talking about technologies that will either talk about next year, right, in our bold prediction for 2024, or the year after. So let's talk about 2023 again. Laszlo, I don't know if you're there, but do you want to talk about this point and tell us why people are wrong?
I can give my take. I was kind of in the middle of something else, but yeah. I think that these Web3 games are promising a lot. I think 500K is a pretty low number. I think that there definitely is a lot of potential for games to reach higher numbers than that. But I think that there's a lot of play in what people actually say they're building, and the actual value and game loops that are being developed are still very far from being explored. I didn't get a chance to try Illuvium as one example, but it all looks quite nice. But until we're at the point where these games can actually sustain such an insane user base, then I don't. I'm a bit bearish, frankly. That's all I'll say on that.
I guess this brings us to this point that Ezra made. That's, as a VC, and I'm sure you guys have seen this as well, there's been a lot of tooling and infrastructure raises and projects like building tooling and infrastructure, and I'm sure there's a few in the FOGDAO as well. But there's almost too many at this point, right? And there's indeed more infrastructure companies being funded for certain than there are studios actually building games. So, I think is your bet here, Ezra, so you're going to see consolidation? And I would say because a lot of these companies are so early stage that a lot of them are just going to go bust.
Yeah, well, it's a mixture of them going bust, or I think their products will become redundant. as like more like I think you'll see more integrated solutions in market, which are just better for ecosystems and then therefore better for developers. Like there's too much fragmentation with like wallets here, like APIs there, like just like all this stuff that's like really like patchwork quilt type of, like the market looks like a patchwork of quilt sort of. And so I think it's like you'll see consolidation around like streamlined tooling that does everything, and like a couple of providers that do it well.
Yeah. One of our struggles internally at Bitcraft has been around a lot of these infrastructure plays that are trying to be some sort of middleware between games and the blockchain. That it feels like there's big chance that all of these will get commoditized, and it's going to be very hard to retain value at that point. So that's our general take, and that's, I guess, a topic for another discussion. Happy to talk about that at some other time.
Yeah, I actually get more recruitment messages about joining a Web3 gaming, how do you call it, tech platform, rather than actual studios building Web3 games. And for me, that says something.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Too many out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the same with me as well. And the problem is that, you know, everybody who's coming in as an investor, investing in games, they don't want to invest in games as a content because they view that as risky, and they want to invest in games as a platform because that's something that they can analyze and also just, you know, CUA, cover their own ass, right? And in the sense that if an LP basically posts them and says, like, why did you invest in this? It's easier to justify that they invested in a platform play based off what worked in Web 2 versus like, oh, we picked this because, you know, the art is cool or the design for this game is cool. It's a lot harder to justify that and defend kind of your own job position. So, I mean, I think that personally for me, my opinion is that content wins supreme in Web3, given the decentralized nature of data, which is generally the biggest moat that provides advantages in Web2, which doesn't exist in Web3. But yeah, sorry, I joined a little late. I just realized that the time had changed.
Yes, and that's 100% my bad. But I fully agree, and I really like your take. And you're right. I think if Phil was here, he's an investor at Convoy, and so they tend to focus on infrastructure and technology around games more than content itself. And it's really hard to invest in content. I can tell you that it's really, really hard to predict what game will be successful, and it's equally hard to find teams that can actually execute on that, because building games is hard.
Yeah, 100%. And this is also why so many of the, you know, top VCs that do invest in content, they do it in they kind of, I've seen two larger meta strategies. One is they just basically diversify and invest solely in content, and this is like what Ed Fries from One Up Ventures does. This is what what's that VC firm based out of Israel who is led by yes, V Games. This is what V Games does as well. Or the other option is that VC funds, they invest and back founders or teams, especially those that have launched games before, because it's way easier for Griffin Gaming to basically say, oh, we backed Will Wright because he made The Sims, even though my personal opinion is that that project is going nowhere because Will Wright is too much of a boomer to understand Web3. But, you know, whatever. That's my personal take.
Hey,
so.
that's what this session today is all about. I want to hear more of those. So he's not going to make it. So you said you told us last week you're venture backed. Who invested in your company?
So it was really hard. We had really bad timing for our Series A because we raised it in between Three Arrows Capital and FTX round. We literally closed the round right before FTX, like 1 week before FTX, which is crazy.
Nice.
So we were co-led by Gumi Cryptos Capital, Folius Ventures, which led the seed round for StepIn, and also an existing investor, from the seed round, Translink Capital, who also came in and upped their ante this one.
Nice, good names.
Yeah.
So congrats.
Thank you.
And happy for you that you managed to close at a at a good time. I'm
I wouldn't say good time, but it's not terrible time.
Yeah, I looking back, you're like, okay, good. Everything happened in time, and I'm guessing you're happy now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It was I don't envy anyone who's trying to fundraise right now. It literally took like every single ounce of energy and mental sanity to do so. So it's a tough road, but it's only going to get tougher, I think, going forward. I watched your podcast with Phil and the other venture partner from Bitcraft. What's his name? About crypto VCs in trouble. But
Sebastian.
yeah, I mean, I think Sebastian. Yeah. I watched that. That was a pretty enlightening episode at the end.
Yeah, indeed. I recommend listening to that one. What 3 VCs are in trouble. It's I think it explains what's probably going to be happening over the next year, which is what 3 VCs won't be doing a lot of investments, and yeah, I think the funding landscape is going to get tougher before it gets better. It looks like to me.
Yeah. And there's like very few funds that actually have raised enough to actually deploy after the A, like for B rounds and up for crypto. Like I think there's pretty much just A16Z on Ventures, which came from A16Z, and then Griffin has a crypto fund, I believe, as well, right? Yeah, I think those are the only 3 that come off the top of my head as like really big funds.
Yeah, we don't do post A usually, and I guess I'm curious to understand. I should look into some crypto-based B rounds and above and see like what VCs are looking for at that point, because it's not that there's a lot of product market fit out there right now, or even over the past years, except for Axie. So yeah, curious.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I don't like some of the things that A16Z crypto fund invests in. I mean, it just really makes me scratch my head in the sense that like People Pleaser raised $7.5 million or something like that for Shibuya.xyz, and I'm like, I look at that collection and I'm like, why did this raise that money? Like, why? How could that be justified for that for such an early stage round? Like, I don't get it, but it feels like a lot of the times they invest based off like, I don't know. This is from an outsider looking in, but you know, the influencers that are backing the project, like they have faith in like people who are like OG crypto influencers who are putting their name behind projects. So because People Pleaser is kind of an OG. You know, Kevin Rose from Moonbirds kind of also has that cachet. I don't think Proof was invested by ACC though. So, and they also backed Jenkins the Valet, which is they raised $12 million for just like making storybooks based off the Bored Ape kind of franchise. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they also they're involved with like Forgotten Runes. Like they're just sort of, there's this like amorphous idea of like Web3 storytelling, which is like very fascinating to me. But I think they're just sort of like interested in that. But having like spoken to a couple people there, I don't think they're experts in it, but they understand the trend. So they're just trying to take like whatever a measured bet feels like.
But it just feels like they're investing in like the big problem I think with Web3 is just the fact that you can quote unquote fake product market fit a lot more easily. Like if like in Silicon Valley prior to Web3, there was this concept of golden cohort, which means that your first like 100,000 users aren't really shit, or maybe it's 10,000 users. And that everybody can basically scale to that amount, but getting beyond that is actually when you find escape velocity. But the problem with like, you know, Web3 collections is that you can find product market fit with like your first 10,000 users pretty easily. So a lot of things feel like more and with the monetization behind that, which is what like VCs generally care about more than user traction, it just feels like they ape into things more prematurely than actually what is long-term sustainable.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the issue when you have more money than you know what to do with. And like to Nico's point, there aren't a lot of other people that can deploy capital into the same space. but like, and on Shibuya specifically, like it's just like not a good content experience. Like they've like it's
Yeah,
they
I
like
agree.
the whole thing is like, hey, like pick a side and we'll give you like the next like 2 minutes of content in like 3 months.
6 months later, 6 months later, it's like
produce this animated short. Yeah, it's insane.
yeah,
Like,
and maybe 10 years we'll give you one episode on Netflix.
yeah, it's mental. And now they're raising money for a platform around that experience. Is just wild.
That is so like everybody wants to build a platform because it's the thing that attracts Web2 boomer money, Web2 boomer VC money, and that's the thing is that I don't like so much money is going to chase after bad projects because of this. You know, like there's some great articles recently posted from I think about like the future of NFT marketplaces, but if you just like look at how like Magic Eden or even OpenSea lost market share from like so quickly from the royalties drama. It's very clear that the dynamics of the competition in platforms in Web3 is just completely different from Web2. Like think about Porter's Five Forces.
100%. Well, it's also interesting too. Like everyone's trying to speed run like things that have happened in the past. So like the emergence of a platform. Like Steam came out of content, not out of we want to build a platform, right? So it's like people are trying to speed run what's happened organically in other places. And you even see that with games. When you see these games, and like there's some games that I actually like that are doing this, which is too bad, but you publish a series of books for the sake of like having books that are the IP that like your game is based on, but no one reads these books. But now you can go and tell people that this game is based on a series of books, and it's like a fantasy, like it's like stuff like that. Like people are trying to speed run like what it means to be like a successful piece of IP, which to me is just like crazy.
Yeah, there's a really great quote by I think one of the legends of the Nintendo designers. His name is blanking to me, but it was like right after the success of Pokemon Go, and they were like congratulating him. He's like, "How do you feel about the runaway overnight success of Pokemon Go?" And then he like stopped the reporter, and he's just like, "No." He said, "What do you mean runaway success? Like Pokemon Go success was 20 years or 2 decades in the making from Pokemon's IP, right?" So I think it's interesting to kind of get that perspective. One of the things Navic did a really good post recently or feature on the UGC kind of like landscape, and I think I agree with a lot of the conclusions. One of them was you need kind of a tentpole content product, and I think that has always been the case with gaming, right? Even Roblox in the earliest days, 6 of their games were of the most popular games are first party developed instead of third party developed. So it's always the case where content attracts players and then inspires players to become creators. I think this is the reason why like Manticore Core hasn't taken off, like Dreams hasn't really taken off. They just are differentiated products. If you just build tools, it's not the case that if you build it, they'll come.
Got to jump in here and say I absolutely agree, especially about the speed running, because again, in the MMO industry, what did we learn? We learned that when making a game, you can't spend $3 million and collect this and try to build an MMORPG, right? Even the very first MMORPGs were built by teams that had 20 years of experience building games beforehand.
Can I chime in this IP conversation? There have been multiple Web3 games or like projects that are trying to build, let's say, an IP with either digital comics, lore, or mini games. I will not offer examples. If you want, I can, but I will also spin it to a 2023 hot take and say that they will absolutely fail in the next year if they don't figure out fast what is the game that they actually want to build at the end of the tunnel, and not just like develop random IP connected things.
Yeah, I think for companies that are building platform first, the thought I have is like, what is their business model? Because if we look at, for example, Steam, it's all about discoverability and a marketplace and a way to distribute games and take a cut from that. And the ability to offer services of a platform is to accelerate and make it easier for game devs to hook up and just get some things for free that are not core to making a game fun. And so I think with some of these companies that are building platform first, I just don't understand why they're doing it. Like, what's the purpose? How will lead it to success? What do you think?
I think it's an easier value prop to push for platform, and especially somebody mentioned just to raise from boomer Web2 VCs. That's kind of a much easier value prop to understand what the platform need is because it's been done before. But platform and infrastructure only succeeds. Platform and infrastructure only succeeds with content, and there's just such an insane lack of content. And everybody is saying they want to be the Disney or the entertainment future of video games in Web3, and just there's like a big lack of respect for how much effort and energy it takes to create these kinds of grand franchise-esque IPs like Pokemon.
Yeah, you can maybe raise probably 5x more for a platform play, quote unquote, than a content play easily, with a lot more kind of biting investors. And also, you don't need to hire quote unquote artistic or creatives on the team like game designers or concept artists as much if you're trying to go for a platform play, which is very Silicon Valley kind of forward.
I've never raised before, so if you could clarify for me. I don't understand how you can get more through the raise. Okay, you're going to make a platform play because you're going to raise more. How can you get that investment if you can't prove how you're going to get people using your platform and what your business model is? Or do they do it? I don't know.
I think that in the early days, people at like seed or Series A, they put a lot more weight on the team that is building things as opposed to necessarily kind of like your pitch or your strategy, because that can always change. Like 50% of startups end up pivoting. So what the kind of problem is that the vast majority of gaming investors of VCs that invest in the gaming space have not actually operated as game builders. So what I mean by this is that there's a very, very few select group of VC investors who actually have gone from ideation to shipping a game. Most of the VC investors in gaming, they kind of like quote unquote lateraled in from being in biz dev, from kind of being on the business side of things, corp dev side of things. So it's not the case that they actually understand how to build games. I encourage you, and for anyone who's looking to raise, I encourage you to actually go through every single gaming VC, look at the partners and look at their backgrounds, and it's very clear. You can kind of see where how their strategy reflects kind of like what their different skill sets are.
Interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I would add, I think there's also a lot of people building products for gaming that have never built games either. And they're
yes,
like
100% true. Yeah.
Gaming industry, and they don't understand the gaming industry. And like that's its own other that's I guess like the other side of the equation, on the same vein.
Yeah, I actually started out in the gaming industry working on a platform. So I had no game dev experience. I just walked in as a PM for a platform, and I developed a player save data service. And then we told our games in the studio, like, oh, here you go. You can use this to save your players' data. And they all said it was useless because I didn't design it in a way that is how games are made, basically. So yeah, definitely a personal learning that to build services for game makers, you have to know how to build a game and what it requires.
And I just want to mention the other sin is that experienced game developers also overestimate what they can do, right? And say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and build an entire game engine that's appropriate for this niche. And then they spend, many years of their life doing that with many people's money. And of course, they can't finish or complete that to any reasonable degree.
Yeah, I think the other thing here is that gaming VCs also, because they don't understand, very few people understand, probably like less than a couple handfuls in the world, how to build like IP that is really wildly successful, that generates venture scale returns on kind of a bottoms up basis. They tend to pattern match. So it's like if they're looking at what are the top, genres that generate the most kind of revenue each year. And if you're not a founder that's building a game that's in that genre, like if you're not like, oh, we're match 3++, or we're like, casino ++, or we're FPS++, then it's very likely that they're going to be like, well, no, thanks but no thanks, because it's harder for them to justify that. So actually, I wanted to chat about on the concept of UGC and platform versus content. I think that there's a really interesting case study that we could probably discuss as a group that is Web3 native, which is Castaways. I would love to kind of get people's opinions or perspectives on what they think about that project that is made by the studio called Branch.gg. Happy to provide more context if people are unfamiliar with it. But I think that the kind of things that I'm seeing is that they have, they're kind of building out their, I don't know if it's a game or a platform, but it's like a Minecraft kind of inspired product, piece by piece, by really heavily leaning into the tokenization of assets and giving them away to the rewards of the community. Similar to kind of the Digi-Daigaku model, except that they actually have a prototype. They've been getting some pretty good traction. Like I think the founder published some stats where it's like several 100,000 weekly active users. But I also don't think that they collect cookie data, because I don't remember inputting my information. So it could just be like total visits as opposed to active users. But we're curious to get other people's thoughts on it.
We're getting past the hour. How are you thinking, Kaizen, about providing some material, and then we can have an informed discussion next week? How does that sound to you?
Sounds good to me.
I'll do it next year. Not I'm supposed to be on paternity leave and also holiday break right now, because I haven't actually taken both. But I'll do it next year if that's all right with you all.
That sounds so far away, but it's only 2 weeks, so we can do that. Sounds good.
All right, thanks.
All right. Any final spicy takes that you guys wanna throw out there that can make us think? And
is the poll going to have some suggestions for the most successful Web3 game?
Sorry. Yeah. So actually, this was like the goal was to be like, we'll have less than. Let's do 3 options. Less than 500K. Let's say 500K. What would be a good number?
I think we should clarify what the 500K is, though, because like there are games that have more than 500,000 people signed up to access like a public beta, right?
Does
like
MAU
GOG.
make sense?
Yeah, MAU is probably
just because you buy an NFT as well, it doesn't mean that you're actually using the NFT in the game.
So is 2 million a good number? It feels good, like a good number for me.
I'll say it's a good number. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So the poll that I'll launch, and I'll launch it in general, is that by the end of 2023, will the most successful Web3 game during that year have reached less than 500,000, between 500K and 2 million, or more than 2 million monthly active users?
I thought we were picking a game.
We can also, well, yeah, but then, yeah, we can do that as well. But honestly, like, there's a decent chance that, like, how many games will be coming out and how many games stand the chance to be the most successful one? I think there's a bunch.
A dozen, I would say.
Okay, give us a list, and then we can do that as a more informal one, because the list is going to be longer than like 3 options is just easy to vote on and do a poll with.
I also think the games that are the most likely to hit these numbers are probably the most likely to be cautious in like the timing for going to market, and are the most likely to like continue to delay things probably.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So it's like hard. It's like really hard to like pick a name, I think.
Yeah. But Konstantinos, feel free to make some suggestions. I'm down for a guess.
Okay, yeah, I will in the chat.
Fantastic. Good. All right. Any other last remarks before we close this off?
Yeah, sorry, clarifying. What are the actual times or the schedule for these now?
So this one is my mistake. It should have happened essentially in half an hour from now. That's when I had planned it, but I had made a mistake in planning it. So I'm making a Google invite, calendar invite, and so if anyone wants to join, and like have a calendar reminder for these, then just let me know. So the next one will happen on next Friday. So we're doing Wednesday, Friday, alternating weeks. So next Friday, that is Friday the 30th, and it will be at 6 p.m. CET. And so the timing is in half an hour at that time, but on Friday. And then the week after, we'll do it on Wednesday again, and then Friday, Wednesday, etc.
Hey, Nico, can you just, let me DM you, enable your permissions?
DM me your email and I'll put you.
We can't because your permissions, because you don't trust any of us because we're all scumbags. So
I have some random people DMing me, so interesting.
Yeah, mine worked.
Yeah.
Mine went
oh,
through.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, what? Okay, interesting.
Maybe it's just you. Just dude.
Or maybe
like,
I'm just a scumbag.
Maybe you don't trust all the scumbags in here, huh?
Yeah, exactly. that guy's a guy. I don't like him. No, bad joke. Anyway, yeah, this was great. So I look very much forward to continuing this discussion next week. I'm guessing so next Friday. So guys and you won't be there, so we won't be doing Castaways. We can do something else.
Be there, but I just don't want to be working as much because I have a 7-month-old and I haven't taken any pat leave yet. So okay. I'm trying to just be a good dad. Yeah.
Okay, so you what does that mean? So you might be there. So you can't commit yourself to being there and talking or
I'll be there, but I won't be doing the Castaways case study. That will be saved for next year.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll figure something out. If anyone has any suggestions for a topic, be happy to get that. Feel free to share with me or in the chat here. Good. All right. I think that's it.
Can I maybe do one more bold prediction?
Do it. I'm ready.
I'm thinking that Epic Games will have its first NFT marketplace for from the digital platforms like Steam or Blizzard. They will do it in 2023.
In 2023, but Epic will be the first to do it. That's what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm thinking 2023.
Okay. That's a fair prediction. Sounds good. All right. Good. I think it's time to call it a recording, a Town Square. I thank you all very much for joining. It was a really, really good conversation. Thanks for sharing your spicy takes and your thoughts and insights. And hopefully we'll speak to each other next week.